There we go. Side one, done. Sorted. Ignore that part. A ramp, some carpenter stuff, a couple of random boards, and we managed to go and get it on there. That little whoop-de-doo, I think, is just going to have to go and be part of the idea here. So now, I've got to get that side done. And that side just kind of is floating. It's actually out too far on the bottom, and it's not far enough on the top. So what I've done is I've made up a whole ton of these little brackets. That way I can tack the bracket to the inside of the panel and then push it to where it needs to be, and then spot weld right here so that I can set the panel exactly where I want it, and then I can cut the piece that's going to go in that side. Okay, who am I lying to? Cut the billion pieces that will have to go in order to make the door jamb. There we go. One down. Probably about 8 more to go. Sun is going down, so I turned on the outside lights just to give you guys a 5-second view of after all the tabs are welded in. Not sure if my phone will be able to see this. But there we go. I welded tabs in. And I'm sure everybody's going to start pointing out that there's holes. Well, the reason why there are holes is because if I have a tab, and I take my tab and I put it in my needle nose pliers, and then I take my ground and I ground to the needle nose pliers, then I can hold the tab in place using the little hole wherever I want it and have the pliers be ground and nail the thing in place. So there you go. There's my helpful redneck tip. Compliments of my uncle like 35 years ago. Obviously, I can't leave it like this. This was just to get it spaced out so that I could get the door out of the way and be able to get into here. Now, what I've done is we've used the dirty thumb method again. We've grabbed a piece of poster board, we've laid it up against here, we've run our thumb up across it in order to crease in a line, and then we've cut it out and set it in here. Going to probably need, my bet is probably 6 different pieces or so by the time we're done. This hump in here is going to be an individual pain in the neck, so I figure if I can run a piece to about right here and about right here, I can do this one individually. And then the bottom section, I will have to probably finish off at a later time. Because what I want to do is take from right about in here and finish this down to this corner right here. On both sides, I'm going to take this rocker panel and I'm just going to slice it right out. And I'm just going to put some box steel from one end to the other and just be done with it, like they do on a lot of Jeep Cherokee builds and things like that up here. It's just simpler, and where all of this is going to come back into a square tube flatbed, I think it'll pull the whole thing together. There we go. We'll shut down the hitbox while we go in to grab lunch. Sorry about the shaky camera footage. I don't know if I got the flu or something, but we gotta keep the project going. So what I wanted to do was come in here and show you guys, and sorry about the shaking. When you're doing something like this with flux core, your natural instinct is to want to weld up, but really what you want to do is you want to weld at an angle down on this. As you can see, the burnout from the flux and everything, heat rises. And if you try and weld up across it, you're going to end up with all kinds of crummy things happening and burn throughs and stuff. But if you weld down, then the natural heat rising keeps most of it out of where you're going. The other thing is I pre-grind, as you can see right there, with the grinder just before doing stuff. And the other thing is, I don't know if I can catch this on video, but I actually cut it with a little bit, about a 1/16th to an 1/18th of an inch too much. And that way, when I hit it from this angle with the flux core, it burns down that edge and then binds the two pieces together. And yes, this looks horrible. My hands are shaking because I'm sick, but I don't care. We're going to keep getting this project done. Outside of praising the porcelain god way more than I would like to today, we've made some progress there. Now, I have built these up quite a bit on this edge because I intend to fill this across with some like fiber infused Bondo or something like that in order to build it just a little bit. That's why it is I'm not worried about this hump, and I left it right here. As far as this is concerned, I'm probably going to go right over that seam with just some seam bond, whatever sealer type stuff, and not even worry about it. So here we are, just to give a demonstration. We close the door. We're off by a little bit, but when you consider how much we had to pull that metal out and everything else, I would say we're not as far off as we could be. A lot more to do. When you got good friends, like my friend the Ghost of YouTube, that comes over and helps you get doors on and stuff like that, you can get a lot more motivated, even when you don't feel good. Now, the other thing that the Ghost came up with was this idea up here. Now, I've come up with my own idea as to how I think I'm going to tie the roof into the rear, but his idea was if you had something like a 2.5 inch to a 3 inch piece of exhaust pipe, you could fillet it down through and weld the seam there, and then cut the end of the exhaust pipe flat with the rear, and put some either blinker lights or running lights or something in the piece of exhaust pipe, and then you could flat panel over that section. So I thought that was a pretty cool concept, so I hunted around till I found a couple of pieces just to show kind of what it would look like. Many people have asked what my plan is for this location. The back side of this is a panel that's removable. So what I want to do is I want to get a fold down license plate, or a fold up like they do for over the top of winches and stuff. Or like the fold down one from like the old 70s and 80s cars and stuff. And put an access right here so that I can have onboard air and be able to plug my hose in and just run around wherever I need to get. Maybe have a plug for my winch control and stuff like that. That's what I intend to do with this location here. Maybe I can get a custom license plate or something that says Redneck Computer Geek, or who knows. But that's what we're going to do with it. We're going to install some onboard air. This was like $130. And we're going to do a test run with this, running around the yard and moving stuff around for winter. So that'll be in an upcoming video, but there's my plan. A friend of mine is currently working on doing a plow truck and redoing a seam on the edge, and was asking how I was doing this. So this is all I've got. I've got this in my left hand, and I've got a block of wood in my right hand. And I'm pressing in on this edge with the block of wood, using the block of wood in order to set where I want my tip, and then just give it a tack. So again, we're going to push in, set the tip on the block of the wood, and give it a tack. And repeat that another 100 or so times. One of the idiosyncrasies of dealing with flux core, as you can see, I had to go back through and fix a couple of spots, is that as the roll gets low, I don't know whether like being smaller on the reel or something causes it to bind a little bit or what, but I have found this with every single machine trying to do finite flux core welding, that once the roll gets down to almost empty, you end up kind of having pocketing happening in your weld. And it just is part of dealing with flux core. I'm going to run this out through, and I'm just going to go back through and reseal the little pocket areas that pop out. I've got a brand new roll on order that should show up tomorrow by about 2 in the afternoon, which means we should be able to get that finished and that panel finished and the bottom panel there finished in theory. I thought I was losing my mind. I couldn't figure out where I put that stupid piece. The UPS guy showed up and I put the dumb thing down and I couldn't find it anymore. Okay, well, now that we're back on track to go put that in, while we're here, I'll show you this. It's a Top Shake. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. It's an Asian company. So these guys are sold through Banggood.com. They've been coming in on the Amazon market also. They're a competitor with the Hitbox company that I've been working with on this Van-Haulen build. So later on, this plasma cutter will be testing against the Hitbox plasma cutter that I got. Now, do keep in mind that this does not have onboard air, so you got to have your own air. It is a 220 or a 110, but we'll be putting them to the test. Also, I don't know what is up with companies and putting like a 5-foot ground with like 16 feet worth of hose. But you guys have got to start putting in a ground cable that is like at least 10 feet. This 5-foot, 6-foot cable stuff, this is stupid. And I'm really beginning to go and hate that that's how they show up. At least it's fixable. Usually these you can peel back and it's just a little Allen head that's holding it. And so you remove it from that end, you put another piece of cable in to make it longer. But either way, we'll be working on this pretty soon. Brazing rod. Because sometimes it doesn't matter how many metal cutting tools you have, sometimes you just can't quite get it right in that one spot. Tack weld the top, tack weld the bottom, stitch weld across it, call it a day, don't tell anyone. There we go. There is nothing sexy whatsoever about that technique. So all you do is just go down about 3/8 of an inch, cycle back up, go down about 3/8 of an inch, cycle down, down a 3/8, cycle up, down 3/8, and just keep stitching it a little bit at a time. What a lot of people will do is they will think they're going to run one side and then run the other side, and that doesn't work. You got to do it at like increments about that much and stitch back and forth across the sides. You can actually see the stitch right there where I finished on that side. Sorry about all the junk in the way. I'm trying to get a perspective on this and whether I like it or not. Obviously I've got to cut that and I got to bring that in so it curves naturally with the door. If we come around the lawn tractor go-kart here, I don't know. Honestly, I would really prefer to have it wrap all the way around and come out to where that door is, but I'm running out of time to get this project done. And when the flatbed is on, the flatbed's going to come out like right about in there, which means that little cut off edge piece you're never going to really see anyway. Well, I guess you will at certain angles, but for the most part, the bed's going to be in the way of seeing it. So I think that's what we're going to do. I think I'm going to pull that off and get into the edges on that side and see if I can find something that's got enough structure left in it. A lot of you ended up saying that I should have just cut a piece of that floor in there out in order to make the floor in here The whole bottom of that is entirely rusted. It would have just been a total waste of time, and that's why it is that I put in what I did for a floor. And the metal that I put in was thicker, plus I put in reinforcements. It'll be fine. There's not going to be anybody stepping back there or anything. It's not that big of a deal. But we're going to cut out edges on there, and we'll see what we can do. We got this cut out, and I wanted to point out I'm using a grinder to do this. This is probably like 5 seconds worth of no duh to most people, but I wanted to point this out. A plasma cutter will not cut through rubberized coating. It just plain will gum it up. It'll do stupid things. It won't start. It won't burn. It won't whatever. Or you'll end up with blasting that comes out and puts rubber all over you that is on fire in 1,000 degrees. If you see this, get the grinder out, call it good. On a side note, if you're dealing with paint like this, even if you don't have a pilot light start whatever type cutter, all you need to do is just scratch something like that much with your pocket knife, and you can start that plasma cutter on this as long as it has a good ground. All Pilot Arc does is it allows you to start burning through this paint and then create the arc to the metal. That is literally all it is good for. You're paying extra money for something you can do with your jackknife. Not gonna lie, I hate it. I think it looks horrible. It needs a piece wrapped around from here around to here to close that off. But I think at this point, we're just trying to get this buttoned up before winter snow hits. So we're just gonna run it. Over on the other side, we tried to get it all blended in as best we could. As you can see, it's out a little bit from the door line, but if you're getting down that low to take a look at this horrifying creation, then you're just trying to nitpicky. I think once we blend it in, I think I'll be a little bit happier with it once this is gone so it doesn't pull your eyes away from it. But really it needs a piece wrapped around right in here. That's some caca. I managed to run out while attempting to finish that one. I guess we'll have to go grab the other welder. There, we got that put away. We could haul out the Hobart 140. I know that would do it. We could definitely haul out the Fournet 140 Easy Weld. I know that would do it. But I think since Cheap Welder $1 Million Ideas is our slogan on the channel, I think we should grab this $150 VEVOR and see what we can make it do. Well, we're going to try one more here. So we've got our voltage dial on 1, 2, 3, about 3.5. And we've got our amperage dial about 1 notch past that. Let's see what we can do here. So we're going to clean out, obviously, wherever we want to weld. We're going to take our grinder. Kind of quickly rough some things up. See what we can do here. We'll probably have to continue dialing in. This thing does have a dead zone in it that's rather irritating. I've got about a 1/4 inch hole here. This VEVOR, you cannot machine gun the trigger. So what you've got to do is you've got to circle it. You've got to cause it to dab it in, and then pull it out as you release the trigger in order to build the weld out. It just takes some learning, but you can do it with a cheap welder instead of machine gunning the trigger like I do with the hitbox. Oh, we've got a lot of rubber undercoating here. So this VEVOR wire is extremely dirty burning wire. There are some flux core wires that you can just pass over one right after another and have it burn through. This stuff burns extremely dirty. This is the VEVOR wire that came with it. There we go. As you can see, we got it done with probably one of the cheapest, crummiest possible welders that is available on Amazon. I've said it before, cheap welder and million-dollar ideas is what this channel survives on. Thank you for watching. We're gonna call this good for this video. We're gonna work on the roof on the next video. Thanks for the support, and have a nice day.